To me, scary stories to tell in the dark is kind of a mix between a modern horror movie and a throwback to the Amblin movies I grew up with, which was a lot of fun. They were based in reality, based in very grounded characters who were up against enormous problems. The collaboration with Guillermo has been amazing. I mean, he's a master storyteller that I've just over these few months I've learned so much from. Just his understanding of clarity of storytelling, how to get a character come alive on screen. Obviously, not to speak of monsters and all the stuff that we can obviously see that he loves. He's been crucial to getting everything right, and he has such an acute sense of heightening the quality of everything he touches. So I'm just I'm amazed at Guillermo. I mean, he's truly larger than life. I'm very much into suspense-based horror. So I want to build dread. I want to build a tension and let the audience know something's coming, and then hold them hostage in a way for as many minutes as I can do in a movie, and try to terrorize them for as many minutes as I can. I mean, my whole thinking when I'm directing is, what does the audience perceive in this very moment? When I'm standing on set, all I'm thinking about is, how is the audience going to perceive this? How is the audience going to perceive that? Is this readable by the camera and therefore in a movie theater? And then dread and suspense is this kind of wonderful thing that only exists in horror movies. It only really, it's like a layer to the scenes that come as I don't know, as an extra thing that you need to account for constantly in the way you design a scene, that isn't just from the drama, that isn't just from the activity or the dialogue or the characters. It is that horror aspect that lays on top of the movie in a way. That is the combination of all these elements plus something extra. And it comes from the timing, the editing, and the music, of course, the sound, use of sound. It's a whole process to get to that level where you really feel the dread. I hope the audience will have fun on a very core level with just relatable characters, a decent sense of humor throughout the film, just great set-piece sequences that are suspenseful and original and fun, and of course just having a fearful, wonderful time in the theater. Obviously, it's a horror movie first and foremost, so I really hope that the audience will come out feeling like they've been scared for 2 hours, but additionally getting a lot of things that they weren't expecting. I hope the movie feels grander than your normal horror movie, that it feels more epic, that it feels more, at the same time, timeless.
Probably the most terrifying children's book ever, I think. Honestly, not even like as a children's book, I think it's still pretty scary to anybody because it just captures the imagination in a way that makes you not be able to sleep at night. So I've interacted with the Pale Lady from the story The Dream, pretty close up, face to face, and that is it freaks you out. The prosthetics, like, they have eyes that look real, and she can smile. The guy is inside the suit, like, can smile and stuff, and it's very frightening for sure. I think there's a lot of humor in it. Honestly, like, me and Augie, we kind of play the comedic relief characters, but we have like such a big arc throughout it where it's almost, we're in these terrifying situations, but we're so like habitually drawn towards humor, and that those kind of things happen in certain scary situations, which is kind of a cool thing that I don't think most horror films really tap into, which is kind of cool with this one. It's like a whole range of emotions, honestly. It's like you can laugh, you can be scared out of your mind, and honestly, you can probably cry at the end of the day, which is really cool.
We're in the Bellows house. It's supposed to be built or occupied in 1898 by a wealthy family named the Bellows. The story in André's interpretation had two poles that made a difference visually. The very unreal, as represented by these wonderful illustrations by Gamel, and the very real, as represented in photographs of William Eggleston, who favorite photographer of mine. André brought him up in the very first time we met, and that's when I knew this was a place where we could do some good visual work, connecting mysterious and unreal to something very, very real. Guillermo kind of let us run with the ball on the architectural specifics. He did come and look through us very carefully look through the plans with us very carefully. And he had suggestions about things that we could improve. He did have some ideas about how to get the most out of the long corridor vista. He also had some ideas that we couldn't afford, which we ended up not doing, but with his blessing. But really, the architecture, he allowed us to sort of roam where we wanted to roam in response to the script and in response to, you know, what we could figure out about the time. This script reached into some of the scary things in real life as the sort of catalyst for all of the surreal scares that come in this horror life. And I think that's the goal that we've been trying to hit with the visual environment, where what threatens us in reality embodies itself in something a little bit more heightened and a little bit more shocking in the horror part of the filmmaking. That's what I signed up for. Mm-hmm.
We are creating or recreating some of the most cherished, scary, fun, sort of entertaining horror tales that are anthologized in those books. But we do it in a way that is seamless with the story. You don't notice. It's just the tale starts little by little and it comes to a conclusion beautifully. André is a great director and a director that directs beautiful set pieces of horror. So you have the recognizing the thing to come and elbow each other and giggle and then be really scared. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. There are two types of horror movies, ones that are disturbing and they sort of scar your soul permanently, and then there is a different type of horror movie which is like a roller coaster ride. It's fun and it's entertaining and is you know, really thrilling, but ultimately has a humanistic spirit, and that's the type of movie André does. You are having fun getting scared, and he was perfect for this. He also is a filmmaker of supreme elegance in the way he stages with the camera and the actors. He's a very classic, very elegant, but at the same time completely unafraid to go there for the scare. Each of the creatures or the monsters or the characters that we brought to life come from an illustration by Stephen Gamel. And we tried to be very faithful to them. We wanted to do it physically. We didn't want digital creatures. We wanted to do suits, prosthetics, to put the real things in front of the camera. And each of them is executed through spectral motion, Michael Iselda's company, but Norman Cabrera sculpts two of the characters that I think riff the best with him. The corpse on the big toe and the Scarecrow in Harold. And then Mike Hill, who sculpted the creature in Shape of Water, and to me is a superb character sculptor, executes the Pale Woman in a story called The Room, and a creature that we took from 2 or 3 stories and connected it, called the Jingle Jangly Man, and is this creature that is assembled from pieces. And there's other stories that come into play, but you will see them. They're like Easter eggs. The funny thing is, every single set piece André did is scary. I mean, I love to say this as producer. I have no merit in that, but André did it. My favorite sculpturally is the Pale Woman in the story The Room. But every single set piece is delivered exactly as the story would want it to be.
Well, looking at Andre's movies, I mean, he's very good with tension. He's very good with that kind of dread. And even just to look at them, Jane Doe didn't have a ton of dialogue. A lot of it was told through the camera. And you get a sense that when a director can tell the story, mostly with a camera like that, he's a pretty good storyteller. So he really felt like the right fit for this movie that needed to have such strong visuals. The stories are our worst fears. So the things that you might have nightmares about, that becomes your story. The thing that you might already be scared of, whether it's based in some fact of your childhood or your development, or something that scared you as a kid, or something that scares you now, or some irrational fear that you may have, your story is written with that fear in mind. So, Sarah already knows what you're scared of, and she can get under your skin with that because she knows that you have a weakness to that thing, whatever it is. So the horror is really in our kids knowing what they fear and being confronted with that fear. Guillermo has done a lot of practical in the past, and as we've done the past several things, he likes to have every fine brush stroke available to him. So, we'll do the practical, but then at the end, of course, any little gesture or color thing or anything that you can do with CG to make it that much better, why not do it? So, again, on this, we've got all practical creatures, Pale Woman, Jangly Man, the Big Toe Corpse, Harold the Scarecrow, all designed by great sculptors, Norman Cabrera, Mike Hill, Francois Dagenet, the team at Spectral Motion. I mean, a great team with great performers in the suits as well. So that's throwback in that way. We have no all CG creatures, but there'll be some CG augmentation for sure. Why wouldn't you make the movie as good as it can be? But it seems now it's a marriage. It's going to be a marriage, and the more we can do practically, the better, for all kinds of reasons. But it's the whole toolkit.
Guillermo's very well versed in the world of monsters and creatures, and I think he has creative reign in terms of how these creatures come to life and are developed. But they're definitely influenced by the imagery. A lot of decay, like I was saying, death, touches of death. So corpse-like elements, unkempt hair, dirt, that sense of rotting, of earthiness. He's a very thoughtful director, he really takes the time to get the sequence right and get the shot right, and he wants to see the bigger picture. So I think that he brings kind of a gravity to the film, because I'm sure it would be easy to kind of run away with the fantasy aspect of the monsters, but he really makes sure that they're human as well.
I think André is perfect for this movie because I think he really understands horror, especially with Autopsy of Jane Doe. It just he mastered that sort of claustrophobic feel, but with also such a wide scale. And I think he's also just a great director. I mean, he really cares about his actors and he wants them to feel comfortable and safe. And so working with him, I really trusted him and where he wanted to take me in my performance. Ramon fears fighting for something he doesn't ultimately believe in. I think that's really important in his storyline and his arc because he doesn't like conforming, and to many people that would be a negative, that he doesn't really like changing his opinions, and he's very strong, and I think that's admirable for being such a young age and really knowing what he wants and going for that. The thing that Guillermo does so amazing is he has fantastical things mixed with, where that fantasy is mixed with the cruelties of reality. And that's something he just does so well, and he does it here in such a brilliant way. I think we really dive deep with our character development. In a lot of recent horror movies or ghost films, there's a lot of jumping straight to the scares. And here, we really take our time to develop these characters, and we have real depth, and there's real consequences, with also being extremely terrifying.
I would describe Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark as a terrifying but fun story about a group of friends who ends up in a really, really scary situation. It follows this gang of teens who stumble upon this book that has some really creepy stories that are written into it, and they end up getting tangled into this big mess. And yeah, it's really scary and really fun. I think that when you read the books, it almost feels like those illustrations are jumping off the page. I think that the books are terrifying and the illustrations are terrifying, and I just think that he could see the potential to make an amazing movie. I mean, they're so chilling when you read the books. I can only imagine how terrifying those stories are going to be when they're brought to life on the screen. André is so talented. He is an unbelievable director. I think as an actor, one of the things that is so amazing about working with André is he's so collaborative, and he really makes us all have such an amazing time on set, and he's so open to hearing, the actors' suggestions and working with us to really create characters and a story that are gonna do these books justice. And André is so talented, and his concept, of the movie is so strong, and I think that he was an incredible choice and the only choice for a movie like this.
Firstly, the book is a classic. The illustrations are classic. They are the things that people remember far more than the story. So for someone like me, you're going in with the plus of knowing you're doing a visual film, and the visuals are important. The visuals are incredibly involved with the storytelling. So it gives it a whole new and exciting idea, and also pushes a genre. The books, which are in themselves a complete learning experience, it would be impossible to consider doing this sort of film without being really informed by the drawings, which are fabulous and unique. They're a very different way of illustrating to any I've ever seen before, and they have a whole atmosphere about them which jumps off the page. And ideally, what I'm hoping we're doing is doing the same with the images of the film, that they will go far beyond what you see here and literally jump at you. This is the sort of aim. It's a bit ambitious, I agree, but why not? The real aim is to sort of not only storytell but tell secrets, so that you tell them from there rather than from there. So you don't look at a costume and go, oh, that's a red costume, that would be a loudmouth person. But there's some sort of secrecy involved, and the more you can get into the sort of detail of that, the more you can try and explain in all these ways, the more fun the job is.
They've done an incredible job with literally just pulling them straight out of the book and putting them straight in front of me, which has been a really cool experience, totally something new for me. But I think they've done an incredible job, totally perfectly capturing like everything that's in those pictures. Stella Nichols, she is an interesting character for sure. You kind of find her at the beginning of the movie in a very, very dark place, I think, in her life, and it starts in a dark place and leaves room for, you know, the events of the story to propel her, I think, through what she's going through and out. She's, you know, a very, very dark, very introverted kind of character. The other friends in the movie, Chuck and Augie, are kind of the closest knit group of people that she kind of has around her. You know, Ramon comes into the story and kind of propels this whole change, I think, in the character, and I think it's a very, very interesting thing to watch. It's the first time I've worked with practical effects, which I know is Guillermo's kind of, you know, his favorite thing to do. I've seen 3 monsters so far. The one monster, the big toe man, he has for sure been the scariest. And that was the funniest thing to me is, you know, seeing this guy, Javier, you know, super tall, full prosthetic makeup, sitting with like in a robe in his cast chair, I have to say is the best thing I've seen so far. Like, you know, rotting human being in, you know, a purple bathrobe, just like, oh, hey, I'm just gonna like get a coffee and sit here. But it's really, it makes acting for sure easier rather than having like, you know, a tennis ball and a stick and a green screen. Actually having a terrifying monster standing in front of you is something very special, and I think it's something cool to keep in film, no matter how, you know, good the technology gets.